Okay, so it's a great show and great artist. Cheers, brother. I'm delighted to hear that. It's our sixth episode. We started a month, was it a month ago? Yeah, I've started with one show a week, and then I said, oh, do you know what? I'll do two a week because, sure, I've nothing else to do, and there's so many amazing artists out there, and just people. So I don't only interview musicians. On Wednesday, we had some phenomenally interesting people. We had Darren Conway, who's a comedian, and we had Martin Fortune, who's a fitness instructor. So I like to have all sorts on this show. Andrew Moore, thanks for joining us. Okay, so we're picking up the numbers, so I feel like it's a good time to introduce our next two artists. So we're getting two for one this time. We're getting two artists. We are getting Dario Rodighiero, who is a composer, pianist. He's an amazing session musician, and he does a bit of graphic design as well on the side. He's originally from Italy, and he moved to Dublin 5 years ago. He played with a lot of different amazing bands in Dublin. Some to name would be Bring Out the Chimp, Jaffa Cakes, Heroes from Mars. He was in a lot of jazz ensembles and tango groups as well. And he just covers a vast range of genres in music. He's an absolutely exceptional musician. And it's an absolute pleasure to be playing with him in so many projects that I run as well. So it's an absolute delight to know him and to be playing with him. He does a lot of film scoring as well. So he does a lot of digital music through programs and things like that. So he's done music for A Decent Proposal, Noah's Wish, and A Christmas to Remember. And you can find all these on IMDb on through Dario Rodighiero as well, which is awesome. And recently he's developed a taste for lo-fi genre, so we're going to be chatting a little bit about lo-fi. And he recently got accepted to Berkeley as well, which is absolutely amazing. I'm not surprised. You know, the guy is absolutely phenomenal. So he has a GoFundMe page as well for that, which Dario, you're more than welcome to share that GoFundMe link in the chat. You can get to know Dario as well. Well, we're going to get to know Dario now anyway. And joining him will be Julio D'Agostino, also known as Julio. He's also from Italy, and he's an award-winning guitar, bass player, technologist, intrapreneur, producer, VJ, and DJ. This guy has a phenomenal resume. During my research, I just could not believe that he wants to come on and chat with me. He has several international awards for film scoring and work he has done for Google, Apple, and Salesforce. He's a session player for Dolce & Gabbana, Calvin Klein, LL Cool J, WizKid, Aphex Twins, BB King. I mean, Pete Burns. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. He started his solo career in 2006 and has released and appeared on 500 albums. Wow. 500 albums. Won 3 international awards for his film score for Photosonic, and which is a short film about photosonic guitar which he developed. And he's also involved with a project, streamofconsciousness.org, with them, and in Dublin he is involved with the King Kong Club and Exploding Plastic Inevitable, and that's not even, you know, a fifth of what he's up to. So absolutely amazing. I hope that introduction was justifiable and was enough. But we're going to get to know the guys now. I'm really excited. So let's see if we can get them on Zoom. Yeah, there we go. There's one of them. There's Dario.
Hey, how's it
Hey,
going?
absolutely brilliant, man. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. Thanks for the amazing introduction. Sorry,
Julio.
I was actually listening to you live on Facebook right now, but there's a max delay, something like 10 seconds. So I,
Yeah.
I thought we weren't live yet. So I was just listening to what he was saying.
It's like a 15-second delay. Yeah, it's
15,
crazy.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's way too long. And Julio, can you hear us? So Julio's still working out the sound. Yeah, man. I mean, like, Jesus. I mean, I had to give you a meritable intro, especially like doing my research, and Googling is fantastic because I'm just Googling and just seeing, like, I didn't know you had an IMDb page, Dario.
Oh yeah, well, I've been put in there because of the film scoring. So once the director or somebody in charge of the movie, they share the works on that website. If they want, if they can put people who collaborated with the movie, so you become automatically a composer there. That's great. Yeah, I
Amazing.
didn't know. I didn't know. I checked it later, and I found it out. So that was cool.
It looks impressive. Because there's a lot of movies there, so I guess that's the process, right? They have to give credit to everyone. So do you have to sign up for IMDb? Like, do you have to make, or does it automatically create?
If you're a director, for example, you want to put your movie there, then you're gonna add actors, um, collaborators, anybody who was in the movie, included, composers and everybody else. So it's kind of automatic.
Hmm.
So if you want, you can subscribe and create your own profile. You got to pay something monthly,
Okay.
and you have your own profile. Otherwise, somebody is mentioning you through your work, which is great.
Yeah.
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 And that's much better than doing it yourself.
It's the freeway.
Yeah, exactly.
Julio, do we have you on sound?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, we do, brother. That's great, man. Thank you so much. There we go. Guitar at the ready. Absolutely phenomenal. Thanks for your patience, guys. I know I said like 4:00, 4:30, so I hope that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
I'm not going anywhere.
Neither am I. I mean, do you guys have a beer or something? Are we turning this into a little session now? Maybe. What
Just
do you think?
water.
You've got one right there. My missus brought me in a couple of non-alcoholic and then some alcoholic stuff as well, just for later on. Maybe, it's such a nice day, guys. Like you two are like almost a match made in heaven for music, in my opinion. Like, from knowing Dario as an amazing musician, and then from what I've read about you, Julio, how did you two meet?
Um, Dario, you did the previous time.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
we-
Dario has to lead
I'll
this
do
one. Go on, Dario.
Yeah, no, you want to
No,
do
no,
it?
no, I did it in another interview.
Yes.
I started this time. He's gonna start. Yeah.
Perfect. I love that.
So it was a long time ago. What was it? 2016, 2015. During that year, we were both sharing rehearsal space, where we had rehearsal space in the same building, which, if I'm correct, was the Chocolate Factory. And now it's the Darkland is there, and I think it's Darren is
Yeah.
right. I
Dan.
can't remember the name. We talk frequently on Instagram. He's the owner of Darkland Studio. Dan, right? Dan, yeah.
Hi, Dan.
I used to play in Sick Boy. Hey Dan. Anyway, so we met there at the Chocolate Factory. And at the time, I was looking for a keyboard player or a piano player to put parts in an album called Mediterraneo, which was all focused on Mediterranean music. Like, it was a lot of folk music mixed with world stuff, and a lot of guitars, and basically like a folk album mixed with world music. And I started to talk with Dario, and Dario was already well known in the circle of musicians, because he was playing with several bands in different styles. Like, he was doing jazz, and then he was playing with cover bands, and so we just started to talk, and we found out that we were both Italian. And since then, we met for to play, for jams. We did a gig together, I think a couple of months after we met, at the East Side Tavern, which was for the launch of the album, which was on vinyl. This sounds like ages ago, which was like only 4 years ago, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago. And over the years, we worked on very different types of music. We didn't focus on one genre in particular. One thing that we share in common is that we like any type of music. We don't have like, we're not like hardcore, blues or hardcore jazz, or we only play like pop music. We just like music in general. And and from music, like we also started to talk about anything, travels, the experience of obviously living here in Dublin, like gigs and technology and music. So over the years, like this has helped us to establish a very good communication. And now we're literally like, exchange music. I send Dario music and say, can you play this? And send music back to me. And he's like, what do you think about this? So it's a very nice thing that it kind of like gets lost if you have only a session player, kind of like a musician to musician relation, where you just met people and you go and you play, and that's it. And this is a common thing here in Ireland for wedding bands, where you got people that, they know each other, but they met mostly just to play, just to do gigs, but they don't really stay in touch outside, the gigs circle. So that's how we met. We met through music, and over the years, we shared a lot of experiences together, and we've been changing studios. Like we moved out from the Chocolate Factory, and we've been both pretty active. Like Darius is extremely active on the live performance side, but for me, I'm more like a studio guy. Over the years, I kind of like cut more and more my live activity. Which used to be crazy when I moved here in 2000, can't even remember, 2008, like such a long time ago. And so that's how it started, through music.
Amazing. Yeah, so it's nice you guys have that sort of nice variety between you, yeah, because Dario has like that amazing live gusto, I like to call it, and it's just because I play in Heroes from Mars with him, yeah, and a couple of different projects as well along the way, and always loved, like, first of all, your energy on stage, Dario, is just absolutely unmatchable, especially for a keyboard player, because sometimes you get like these really, no offense to the keys players,
you're right,
community.
I kind of hate to be a keyboard player, to be honest, because of the fact you have to stay there static in front of a keyboard, unless you play the guitar, the shoulder keyboard, so you can move around,
Yeah. You said that you kind of wish you played guitar or something at some stage, right?
Just because, it allows you to express your body language much better than stayed in front of a keyboard, which is something a little bit quiet, but I sometimes depending on the music, of course, depending on the genre you're playing. If you're playing some rock music, you really want to move, you really want to jump around the stage. But you can be kind of expressive even in front of a keyboard, just
you've proven that. You have proven that, because you have some great videos as well, which I love seeing sometimes, and you make it look so easy, man. It's just like you just doing this kind of thing, and for me, not playing the instrument, I'm just like, how is he making it look that easy?
I have to say, I'm not very technical. I'm not really.
Is that true, Julio?
What if he's not technical? Or,
or is he being too modest?
It's like no, obviously he's an amazing musician. But like when you master an instrument, you don't think too much about the technical aspect. You're just being yourself. So that's why you see in this, like, so from many great players have that. So I totally share the same feeling that you have. Like, when Dario plays, like, obviously it looks like easy, and it doesn't look easy what he does, but it looks effortless. So that's
the better way to say
maybe the right word.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's unbelievable seeing him on stage and how he is in the moment, and that's what I love about, the musical craft, right, of creation. You are kind of expressing yourself, and the instrument is the extension of us, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm when I always prefer to kind of improvise music instead of playing something by memory, not by memory, or following certain kind of rules or paths, because I it's a form of expression. It's just it's like language. And when you really like what you're doing, what you're hearing, even if you're playing maybe a cover or a song which is written down, it has a structure, it has chords, but still you can express yourself, allowing yourself to play in a certain way. Anyway, it all depends on the music, because if you play in an orchestra, for example, that's a little bit different. You might you might need to be more focused in the performance and following exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if it's more
conductor.
like, yeah, if it's more following the conductor, if it's more perhaps using like the more logical side of your brain. So you can use two sides of your brain for music, right? You have the logical sort of mathematical left side, I guess, and then you have the creative, feeling, emotive side, which is the right side. And both sides, I mean, it's good to have maybe both, but you can still survive and do really well in music with just one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my dad's I think he's more logical, personally. I hope he's not watching now. He'd be like, what are you saying? Because he plays in the National Symphony Orchestra, on the double bass. So this would be your concert musician, orchestral musician. But it's amazing what you guys are doing. And it's amazing that you guys teamed up. Like what kind of, I know we touched on a little bit of stuff, but what kind of stuff are you focusing on now to get as a team together? I know we were talking about the Lofi. I guess we can chat about it.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing, especially now because we have like Dario obviously like on the side, the live aspect, like it's more at home. So like it's more like looking, there's he's gonna probably talk about Berkeley and about like the music aspect, but you get more time to. I mean, you kind of have to stay in one place now, so you don't moving. You're not traveling from a studio to a studio. You're not going to gigs. You're not going to check bands. There's no much the time in between things. So you can say, okay, today I'm going to be productive, like, I don't know, for 1 hour, for 6 hours, for 4 hours. And, but the only distractions that you're going to get is either somebody that is at home or the phone, or social media or stuff like that. But you don't get, the call, hey, let's meet at this place, or changing plans, like we're doing this instead of that. So because of that, like we were kind of like working on different projects. One is the Lo-Fi Jazz. And the Lo-Fi Jazz started because we were both intrigued about the so-called Lo-Fi music. And this was like during 2019, I mean, during, about a year ago. We were talking about doing something. We were both fascinated about the rhythm of Lo-Fi music, because it's like, that type of chill out vibe, but the drums are somehow 90s, and with a little bit of jazz in it. And a lot of people identify that type of music with music for studying, music for relaxing, etc. And what we noticed is that probably all the time, like the so-called lo-fi music uses samples, like a lot of samples, but there's actually no people playing. Like it's just, like just samplers. And I use samplers too. I mean, I love samplers, like, old school sampler stuff. But we were thinking about what about starting to incorporate live instruments in the lo-fi genre. And because of the type of music, the type of groove, it also works particularly well with jazz chords or with blues lines and all that kind of stuff. So we started literally to mess around with a bunch of groups and, using the same type of sound, but having more a musician approach to a genre which was mostly dominated by hip hop producers and DJs. So we were trying to, experiment. And then after that, we started to do this, like back and forth. We were like, what we'll be doing better in lo-fi music. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the drums and the bass, and then send it over to Dario, and Dario put on like keyboards, synthesizers. So we were, trying to see like, oh, I can kind of do something that kind of like sounds lo-fi genre or chill hop. And Dario were like, oh, I'm gonna put my own spin on the keyboards and the keys and synthesizers. And then I don't know how many like tracks we produced. I think it was like around 30 tracks. And then in the first place, we released the tracks independently. We started just to to put them online for DistroKid. Then because I do a lot of projects with Sony Music, Sony Music was like, oh, why don't we distribute the tracks through us, so you can get a little bit more exposure, do a little, the thing a little bit more planned instead of just dropping music, just having a little bit of a calendar and put the songs one after the other, and then it became a project, and then we were, we met and rehearsed at the Yellow Door Studios, which is a great place near East Wall, and a great rehearsal space and studio space. And we were meeting there and trying different ideas, thinking about let's bring this live. Then obviously, the whole Corona stuff came in, but we were still saying we can still produce music. We can still, we have two videos where we do a remote session, and we're still trying to figure out, which is not easy to do, a real 100% live performance with almost no latency.
Is it
and
possible?
be like an actual, we a solution. And I checked with several musicians across the world, in Asia, in the United States, in Europe, and no, at the moment is a utopia. You can obviously send a video, and I did a virtual duo with Brian May, and Brian May was got this video from Tony Bowers, Simply Red bass player, and he lives near Limerick. He moved here. Yeah, he's like one of those old school legendary musicians, and I met him and talk about music and talk about synthesizers. It's like, oh, Brian May is doing duos, and I thought it was a live duo, but it's not. It was not. It was just Brian May sending these snips of him playing, classic Queen stuff, and I did that. And it looks like it's live, but it's not. So anyway, this will be amazing to do, with musicians, like real live performances.
Yeah.
So anyway, this goes, all these different topics that I talked about, they go under the lo-fi theme. Then we're working on albums. And there's a bunch of stuff that kind of let me think about. There were, I think, two albums we were talking about. One was the funk album with 70s funk music covers, like from Stevie Wonder, stuff like that.
Cool.
Where my primary instrument in that is bass. And then Dario gets an amazing taste for 70s funk stuff, and we were start to say, okay, let's try to do standards, almost like what's going on, Marvin Gaye, great music.
Oh yeah.
And we worked on that, and then I was basically scraping my whole hard drives of projects that I never finished, entire albums that I never finished, and I started to send the tracks to Dario and say, hey, what do you think about this? So I said, oh yeah, maybe I can put this in there. And there's a lot of albums on the back.
I can
we
imagine.
got a Latin jazz album, which I think actually is finished. I need to mix that. And with two albums of jazz standards, where I play the upright bass, which is behind me right there. And then what else we have? We have a very long soundtrack, which I recorded in 2007, and is dedicated to New York. And the original name of the project was Zoo York. And it contains pretty much everything. There's no piano, there's no keyboards, no guitars, except for a few songs. And I sent that to Dario, and I said, what is this? And he came back to me and said, this is acid jazz. Yeah, I didn't even know. I know about acid jazz, I didn't know it was acid jazz.
That's
so
amazing.
this is what is happening. And we have a song out now online, single called The Last Table, which actually has a musician that is another Italian musician, but he's in London, Fabio Cascio, and he plays the bass. And that was a remote collaboration done in 2019. So we were already experimenting with the idea of remote collaborations. That's it.
That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. And you've done a lot of what's it, 500 albums you've been a part of.
So yeah, in total, yes. So there's all the singles, but those albums, they start from 99. So there is a large amount of classical guitar repertoire in there. there's about 300 something tracks that are classical guitar, which at the moment they're almost all of them, they're being taken down and they're being going to be redistributed through Sony.
Brilliant.
So, because I was taking care of everything for those tracks, and I'm like, no, for my music, I want to focus on the music aspect. I don't want to think about the business side. If I'm working with other musicians, for distribution and stuff, then it's okay. But for my own stuff, I prefer to just to do the musician aspect, just because it's too much too,
Yeah.
and the repertoire is big. It's like managing a big library of music. But yes, it's a lot of music, but it's also many years of activity. So
Yeah.
I started to play in '96, so it's a long
Okay.
time.
So Dario, you're gonna have to catch up now to, what do you think, 500 albums? You gonna do it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh man, well that's amazing, and it's just fascinating, man, how much work well both of yous put into music. Like, I mean, of course, you started a bit earlier, right? Julio, I don't want to give away people your age or anything, because you are a young guy anyway, so it doesn't matter.
It's on Wikipedia anyway.
It's on Wiki, and I can't believe I was like, okay, I gotta Google Julio and see what this. The first thing, Wikipedia, and I'm like, okay, it might be a different guy, because you always get somebody else, and it's like, oh my god, that's him, amazing.
Yeah,
and
that actually, like, I tried to fix that Wikipedia several times.
Oh, really?
Because there's a bunch of things for that, because I didn't do it. There's some dude in US that basically there's like these people that they like to write biographies on Wikipedia. They this is especially at the time because that Wikipedia appeared, I think, in 2010 or 11. And then I updated it. I was saying the updates because you can go on Wikipedia, log in, and submit the updates. And then Wikipedia comes back to me and he said, you need to prove you're you.
Oh, right.
And I'm
Okay.
like, okay. And I sent, proofs of my ID. And I'm like, that's cool. But now that you want to update the information, you need to provide press. And I'm like, what do you mean about press? And I said, well, you need to have like an official blog that says this and that, and I had some press, like from newspapers in Italy or other papers like in US over the years, but I don't have everything in writing through press. I mean, there's all the stuff that is just a photo or video, and I thought a video would be enough. So I ended up just gave up, and that Wikipedia thing stops about 2 or 3 years ago.
It's still pretty good. Don't worry, I'd leave it. It's fine. But no, it's really really impressive. And so now you're moving towards the kind of lo-fi stuff a little bit, right? So like, Dario? How are you like? Because you got into that as well with Julio together, right? Was it both of you decided to kind of get into the lo-fi?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of albums. There are playlists online that people listening to, millions of people's actually. So it's a great thing. And there's also a lo-fi festival right now, which is online. It's as many people are playing with these samplers, they're actually creating live music using just the samplers. And so they can do that online. They can show themselves with the device, and that's it, which is great already, because without them using those devices and doing all the stuff, there is no music at all. So they are kind of, they're creating the song that you're hearing live, the structure of the song through the samplers. What we do is something more. So we create the sound, we create the track using samplers, of course, like everybody. But then we're gonna play over it with real instruments.
Amazing.
Possibly with analog stuff, digital stuff. But if we have the possibility, we're gonna use synthesizers, our keyboard. I have a small keyboard here, for example. It's a tiny one, but this is great. I love it. It's very vintage, like as a sound. It's modern, but the sound is really retro, and it matches very well because the lo-fi music means low fidelity.
I get you. Yeah.
And so all the sounds are really like they come from an old vinyl, for example, or they're never too modern. They are really they have this warm thing that you can hear from some old vinyl and stuff like that, you know. So you have to keep that style to get a good result. And
Yeah.
then we say, well, it doesn't have to be all the time kind of hip hop, because maybe the rhythm sometimes reminds a slow hip hop R&B,
The
but
drums especially, right?
the drums especially, yeah. But then there are some jazzy chords on top or some solos. Usually there are no solos on lo-fi
It's
music
quite repetitive, sort of.
because they're samplers.
And it's
Yeah,
samplers, but you guys are taking it to the next level by adding a live performance and more musical aspect, removing just the samples, so it's samples plus live. And that's great, because we were speaking a little bit, Julio, there before when we were doing our little test, that this was kind of an idea that you had, whether it was both of you or however, and you feel it's like the new sort of, you know, the way like 80s synth came back for, like, you know, when Stranger Things started, right? That there was a huge thing. Is this kind of the new thing coming back as well?
I don't know. I mean, like, it's the lo-fi music was like, when I was in Japan in 2005 for a long time in Tokyo, and there was already a lo-fi movement going on, and it was very small niche of people, and it was everything. It was lo-fi visuals, so there were video art, you know, comics, the anime, for example, it's an aspect of lo-fi music or lo-fi art in general. And the common thing, I mean, the whole thing that the core element of the so-called lo-fi movement in general, which started in different parts in the world, but one of the main places was obviously Japan, Tokyo, Kyoto, and so forth, is the nostalgic aspect. So the fact of bringing back anything that gives a sense of nostalgic, mellow vibe. That's what the lo-fi movement is all about. So some people they identify lo-fi with with the 90s, like with like R&B, cheesy R&B ballads from the 90s, which is the type of music that you would put like in the background, but at the same time it's not anonymous background music. Is the type of background music that it's more for listening than for festival, or for like a big live performance. Some other people, they would think that lo-fi is about the 80s or even about the 70s. But in general, definitely the element of the nostalgic element is recreated through, in music at least, through the use of analogic gear, which is obviously always connected to something that is back in the past, and with a genre that doesn't have anything in common, or this type of music that doesn't have anything in common really with contemporary music. So contemporary music, it's like 2-minute songs, really fast tempo, very danceable, catchy tunes. While the lo-fi music, it's minimum 2.5 minutes is each track, and obviously there is just a kind of like repetitive patterns. It's kind of like a trance type of thing. So it wants to go and appeal, not really appeal, but it wants to go and be a sort of manifesto for anything which is related to a nostalgic revival of certain type of art, of sounds that are from the 80s, the 90s, or the 70s, from the past in general. Where there has to be a technological aspect. You can't be like music from the 1800s is obviously not lo-fi because there was no technology. But music from the 70s can be classified as lo-fi because in the 70s, we had Moog synthesizer, we had drum machines, we had the beginning of technology entering the world of music. So we have all these different elements that they can identify, that can say, okay, in order to have lo-fi, you need to have an element of technology and an element of nostalgia, basically.
Yeah. Awesome. No, it's great. There's definitely that feeling of nostalgia when I listen to it. And I guess there'll always be somebody listening to these kind of I guess they're quite niche, aren't they? These genres like the lo-fi and like the synthwave, and there's always going to be listeners of it. And like you say, there's a huge anime sort of sector, because I've seen a lot of lo-fi, and a lot of them would have like animes on top. And of course, situations where you'd have it as background music, and you wouldn't even realize what you're listening to. Like we were saying, it can be lo-fi in the end, but we don't even realize. But look, I have you guys here, two fantastic musicians. So we've been having a lovely chit chat. I'm sure we could just talk for hours about this stuff. Who wants to play? Who really wants to play?
Both of us. So.
Do you want to try the live? Should we try test the latency?
We could, yeah. I don't know if it's gonna work out, but we could try that.
Do you know what's interesting? Here's some food for thought, and it could drive you mad, and it's probably just like the most stupid thing you guys might have heard, because I'm not very well versed in this kind of stuff. But like, what if there was a consistent latency? Like, we knew it was exactly 0.7 of a second. We knew that.
Oh yeah, that would be.
You deliberately know that, and you start 0.7 of a. You have a click track or something. Maybe it's unpredictable. It sways, doesn't it? It changes the latency, right?
That would be an interesting exercise. It's kind of like because you would have to compensate. I don't know if the click will work, because you will have like each musician a different click, but and the clicks will go out of time with each other. But if you will try with compensate the latency yourself, that's very interesting. And it's kind of. It reminds me of something insane people like Frank Zappa will do. Let's try to compensate the delay live.
I mean, we might never be able to find a solution for this, right? So it might be the future.
So why not?
Okay, so guys, take it away. I don't know who wants to perform first. It's entirely up to you guys, because I know both of you have your instruments in front of you. So I don't know. Julio, do you want to go first, since we had the sound check earlier? And then Dario, you go on straight after, I promise.
No problem. Yeah.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, man.
Okay. And I'm gonna try something different. So I don't know why. Like it was about 2 days ago. I was just listening back to some obscure recordings of Steve Ray Vaughan. So not the usual stuff, because I don't like to listen to guitar player stuff in general. Not too much, unless it's something particular. And I bumped into this one because Steve Ray Vaughan is known for songs, but not for instrumentals. And every time that somebody talks about Steve Ray Vaughan, they talk about the cover of Little Wing, which is the Bob Dylan song covered by Jimi Hendrix, and then covered by Steve Ray Vaughan. Steve Ray Vaughan has a very good original ballad, instrumental ballad, called Riviera Paradise. And it's the last track of the last album that he did, which is called In Step. And it's an album that he recorded with Jimmy Vaughan, which is his brother. And he died about a year after releasing this album. And it's the last track, and there's a reason why it's the last one. It's the last one because at the time, they used to have this very long recording sessions, and Steve Ray Vaughan used to record live with the trio, the bass, drums, and guitar, most of the times, and then recording the vocals later, and during the last years of his life. And there is a story which has been told by the people, that the sound engineer and the producer, that at the end of the recording session of In Step, he said that the last few hours, because at the time, the record label will come with a budget, and you had, say 2 weeks in the recording studio. And most of the times you had to go and ask for more budget, because you needed more time to finish the record. But in this case, they had extra hours. So it was, I don't know if it was 4 hours or 3 hours, but basically what he said switch off the lights in the recording room, and just obviously keeps the lights on in the booth, like where they were having the mixer and the gear, and just click record. And he recorded this 4 minutes solo guitar piece, which is it's not solo. I mean, it's not guitar solo. It's a guitar piece. And then later on, the producer said, I like it. And then they had the drummer and the bass player playing over that, which it wasn't recorded on click. So, but when you hear the track, and also they had an organ, they put an organ. When you hear the track, it goes like seamlessly. It sounds like, I mean, it's such obviously great sense of timing from Steve Ray Vaughan, which most of the people would think that he is only capable of doing blues. But that track is crossing different genres. There's a bit of jazz, there's a bit of pop. It's an interesting thing. It's like a Steve Ray Vaughan Little Wing. It's like his own spin on his own Little Wing. So we're just practicing that song, and I was because a song that I always wanted to record, and but I always wanted to find a different way, an alternative way of recording it. For example, I did, I think a week ago, with Dario, a version of Santana Europa, but instead of playing on the guitar, I played on the bass. So I did everything on the bass, and this one, like right now, it's just gonna be like, just gonna jam on it. But I'm not sure if it's gonna be on the guitar. But if it's gonna be on the guitar, it's gonna be, my own rearrangement. It might be on the classical guitar, which I don't have here because it's at the studio. But yeah, just a very interesting piece of music. And so I've used the backing track and for drums and everything else because I don't have the new arrangement yet.
Beautiful.
I heard Dario. I thought he was going to take over with the solo.
So you had it sounds amazing, man. That's absolutely phenomenal. Guitar playing as well, and the piece is lovely. You had a backing track. It was unfortunately really hard to hear the backing track. Your guitar was loud and clear. Did you make the backing track? You made that one yourself? Was Dario in the backing track, or was this?
No, Dario was playing live. You were playing live. The backing track was just a bass guitar. There's bass guitar, and drums, and a little bit of pad, like just
Oh,
sync
okay.
stuff. But yeah, but there was a piano playing.
Did you chime in there, Dario? Did you?
No, no, not this time. I don't have.
Why don't I
have
trust them?
I don't. It's impossible to play at the same time that we tried already. Anyway, I don't have my piano connected because technical problems. I tried many ways. So I found out the only thing I can use right now is this little thing. So that's it.
Awesome. Do you want to play a song for us as well, then, Dario?
Well, we were talking about the lo-fi, so I wanted to give an example.
Please.
And I can play actually a kind of song. It's a song we made for lo-fi jazz project. And then this is how it works. So Julio made the backing track, so made the drums and everything. He sent that to me. So I'm trying to play what he sent me that time. The song is called Cool Down Boy, which is pretty cool. And I don't have the synthesizer that I used in the recording. I just have the sound. I don't know if you can hear. Great. So I'm going to use this electric piano. And I'm going to play the backing track. So pretty much this is what happens when we create a song. He sent me the backing track. I'm going to play it with my phone, which is connected. I hope you can hear it. And I just play over it. And let's see. So this is very quiet and cool. And it's an example of lo-fi jazz. Here we go. Let's go. All right. There it is.
Well, hey, that is fun. That looks like fun. That sounds like fun. It's such a great genre, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I supposed to change more sounds, during but the whole process, but that was improvised very much. Usually
Yeah.
I switch between keyboards, so this sound here is for one little piece, then there's gonna be another one completely different, so forth. So I was trying to mess around with the effects,
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
create
It's
something.
it's great because I'm sure like a lot of people viewing now as well could agree. Like it's an absolute delight watching Dario performing. You should do live streams, man, and just you don't even need to say anything. Like you just play and people will watch it. And
But now,
I'll promote that,
now,
man.
now I was focused a little bit. I wasn't very like, otherwise I start to move and
Oh,
I
to let
break things
loose.
around.
Yeah, but
So yeah,
it's funny because I know how you feel like me as playing drums and getting lost in it, and when there's a pressure situation or whatever, or a song that you don't, or whatever, blah blah blah, and I feel like I didn't really give, I wasn't as loose or whatever, but then somebody watching will just go, wow, yeah, that was so loose. So it's like the
oh yeah.
perception, still watching you there was just like, yeah, wow.
It's good to see the videos we have, on stage.
Yeah,
Those are really cool.
just to give us that third person perspective, right? Yeah, absolutely. So great. Like I think the guys, we had a lovely chat. I think we should. Do you want to just go back and forth? And Julia, what do you think? You want to play some more music for us?
Yeah, sure. I can play
Awesome.
some improvise something on.
Yeah, the guys are loving it in the chat. We got Dave Duggan, who seems to know you, and he says, "Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well these days."
Also,
And Arthur Janowski says, "Whoa." Column Groovy, and then Dave Duggan is asking, can he play freebies by any chance? I don't think. We'll just we'll keep giving away the freebies, I suppose. We'll see how much we can squeeze out of these amazing musicians before they start charging, right? I should do a PayPal or something, or
yeah, I'll improvise something on this theme. And which some of you might recognize. It's from a movie, and it's again like it's just another experiment. Yeah, trying to go outside the usual stereotypes of people playing archtop guitars and playing jazz standards. And I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in movie soundtracks that even recent movie soundtracks. Popular songs, folk songs. There's a lot of stuff that it could be interesting, and they sound like different because of the fact that this type of guitars are bridging between an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar. And this is, some people call this the Romeo and Juliet theme, but I think that's the name is known for.
Nice. That's beautiful, man. There's it sounds like somebody's trying to drill into my house here, so I hope it doesn't come through onto the radio station. But absolutely phenomenal, man. So Tom, I don't want to keep you guys too long, and there's so many things I could ask you. There they are banging away. It's crazy. Like during the summer, it's like everybody gets. It doesn't matter what's happening. Everybody gets super active and wants to, home decorate. Mow the lawn at 6 a.m. because why not? Um, but yeah, I'd love to have you back again, and maybe I can get this even to the next level, and I'd love to have you back again for a nice chat, or even try to get you on for longer. I wanted to actually, before I guess could ask you maybe a couple of things as well. So with regard to the Lo-Fi Festival, Julio, so we discussed a little bit about this briefly. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about the event that's coming up that you'll be taking part in with Dario?
Yes. So I was following the Lo-Fi Music Festival, which is a festival organized by a group of people that are from the Lo-Fi music community. And then with another group of people, we were talking about organizing something like that, but we're trying to cross genres. So not just stay on specifically on lo-fi, but on anything that has pretty much the same groove. So down tempo, jazz contaminated with chill out music, chill hop, which is another branch of the so-called lo-fi music. And what we're thinking is to basically focus on a live video streaming. So trying to recreate the same type of bound and interaction with the viewers or listeners through remote streaming, which is not easy, because what I've seen with the Lo-Fi Festival, and the team did an amazing job for that. You have a lot of interaction on the chat, but for example, you're missing, somebody introducing the acts or telling a little bit of a story behind each artist, which is something that you have in a live festival, because in a live festival you have different stages depending on the genre, and then you can kind of like get it vibe depending on whoever is near the stages. So you have some people that are from the electronic music world, they tend to stay around a certain stage. People that are more like the heavy metal scene and everything, hard rock, they stay to another stage. And just by going there and talking to people, you can say things like, "What's the name of this band? You know,
Yeah.
where they're from?" Kind of stuff like that. And that's an aspect that is really difficult to translate, through a
For a
remote
live.
festival.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge that I'm working on with a few people from different parts in the world to try to coordinate, I wouldn't say like a large scale, but an interactive live video streaming festival,
Yeah.
which obviously it won't be anytime soon. This is something that will be like in July or end
That's
of July.
that's great. And you know what? Thank Zoom is quite good for stuff like this. Because you can have, I think, up to, I think it's 1,000 people on
Yeah,
Zoom.
yeah, yeah. It's a great platform. This is a lot more because we're talking about like 60 or 70,000
Oh
people.
wow,
It's
wow, okay.
a lot more people. Twitch is actually a good platform. The only thing is that Twitch is designed for gamers, so it's very good to share like your screen or share like activity on the computer. But if you want to video stream, if you want to stream music from sound card or studio, it's a little more challenging for the setup because you need to change pretty quick,
Yeah.
and you need to make sure that the next act is coming and is already set up. One thing that will enormously help in this is obviously having a host, which would say something in between the acts. So there's a little bit of things that needs to be planned, but definitely it is the name of the event is Lo-Fi Picnic.
Lo-fi
And
picnic, and there's a
yes,
website for it as
it's
well.
lofipicnic.com. Yes, so or if you want
Lofipicnic.com.
the only thing that comes up there. So the
Brilliant.
Lo-Fi Picnic, and I'm gonna be posting stuff obviously on my socials, on Instagram, and whatever I
Great.
do on Instagram, it's reflected on Facebook. So it's exactly the same stuff that is automatically shared there on my Twitter page. So you're gonna hear more about this, and obviously be performing with Dario, and we're gonna be like doing lo-fi jazz, which is like its own niche genre on its own. It's a genre on its own,
Okay.
and there's different options, because there's different options of how this can be arranged. As far as we know, because of the current situation, it will be probably 100% remote. So everybody will be in their own houses, or if they have the studio in their place, it will be from their studio. But definitely, it's really interesting. It's an interesting challenge, and I know there's going to be few remote festivals happening, and
100%.
obviously the word festival is not the exact word because it's not festival, but it could be more like an online gathering, of people that they want to, they're curious to see how does it feel to witness, different musicians or different performers, which are live in the end because it's live streaming, performing one after the other from different parts of the
Yeah.
world.
That's amazing. It's an experience in itself, man.
Yeah, and I think that anything which is like mellow, but doesn't imply too much physical interaction from the musician side. I mean, I wouldn't be 200% sure if this will work for stuff like heavy metal, for example, or for like trap or hip hop, where like physical, like intense hip hop, like grime, trap, and stuff like that, because the interaction with the audience is you need that, otherwise you lose.
Yeah.
Like you just have a guy with a microphone like freestyling, or you have like a bunch of like guys playing extremely technical heavy metal, but it's detached from you. While in this type of genre, by default, the vibe, the mood that you want to get is something relaxed. So the uh, the extra layer in the experience, the difference between listening to a lo-fi radio and then listening to a lo-fi festival, is that you can actually see that it's live. It's a little bit like some people probably watching this, or in general they're familiar with things like the boiler room. In boiler room you have like DJs doing the set, but you also have the audience. Like there's a small audience behind. There's not going to be a small audience in this case, but the concept is the same. Is to try to communicate the feeling of the live performance through the limitations of technology, which is through the audio and through the video and through the chat. And which is as you said, is an experience on it in its own. And it's definitely an interesting challenge. And it looks like we're not gonna have really any alternative until mid-August, at least, or end August,
Well,
as
it's
far as festivals.
yeah. I mean, it's great though. I mean, it's great that people like yourself, like Dario, like myself, and so many other thousands, if not millions, millions of like people in art, in music, in the promotion industry, in the business itself, that are trying to sort of work around this situation, right? And it's beautiful. I mean, feck, man, I'd go for it. I'd love to help you out with it. I'll be the presenter. I promise I'll be sober, and I'll do my research, and I'll be lively. It sounds like a lot of fun. And I attended something very similar, and it was called Canta com Amor, and it was like a more sort of spiritual kind of music. And it was beautiful, and it was done through Zoom. Now, what they did was of course, there was 1,000 capacity, so people could get the Zoom link ideally if they donate, but it wasn't necessary, or if you keep your webcam on, because what happens is you get to look at people's reactions. Sorry, I hit my mic there. When they're listening to the music, so you'd have somebody at home kind of grooving, and you can full screen them for like 3 seconds, which is just awesome. You have a producer, working behind and picking the sort of so it's not just watching the musician, right? You're watching other people involved. So I'd suggest something like that for if you're using Twitch as a platform or whatever way you're using it, and then stream it on Facebook as well, and stream it on. But let's say you allow a select few to be allowed to be filmed. Let's say people. We can talk about this off camera, of course.
There's a lot of options because it's a completely new thing.
Yeah,
it's not explored. There were a lot of people talking about virtual festivals during 2019. But because of the technological limitations, they were like, oh no, let's talk about like in 2022. But then this whole quarantine stuff, the coronavirus and so forth happened, and we're kind of like, well, now we have a push. It's kind of like pushing entire industries into try to figure out as soon as possible what to do, like the movie industry, all this, anything which relies on large group of people interacting outdoors right now is looking into alternatives using what we have, which is technology, like a consumer technology. Pretty much anybody has and decent enough laptop to put on a camera and stream stuff on YouTube. And we've seen so many things, like, I mean, from like obviously like a lot of the stuff that a lot of the music that I go and stream or check on YouTube is like music from musicians and things that I've seen. I've seen things that were not possible like 2 years ago. I've seen musicians, like if I had to think from guitar or bass parts, like guitar parts, there is like you got like Steve Vai giving you like an hour and a half lesson for free every single week. It's just streaming because it doesn't have it can't do anything else from the studio talking about stuff. The same thing would it be on instructional websites for $100 for 20 minutes, and you wouldn't even have the opportunity to write on the check and interact. There is the Phil Collins band. I can't remember the name of the bass player, the guy with the big beard, looks like the guy from ZZ Top. The bass player from Phil Collins, like every single day consistently, he does a live streaming on YouTube, and almost every day he plays. He played pretty much on every Phil Collins album, and he plays a Phil Collins track live on the bass, and then if you have questions, like he's gonna reply to you. I mean, when is it gonna happen? Anything like that, like for or you got like Brian May that goes live and he says, I'm gonna create a backing track for you on any of the Queen songs, and then you can do whatever you want with it. You can sing on top of it, you can play drums. It brings the I think what is left of the music world back to people, and especially to musicians, which is after a whole phase of complaining about the fact that music, with the whole streaming, complaining about Spotify, all the kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And it's true, it's true, but it's also like, what's the point about complaining? It's inevitable,
Sure.
like music world exists because of two types of people: the people who produce the music and the people who listen to the music.
Mm,
But we will never have more music or content creators than people that consume content and listen to music. So in the end, we kind of have to find a way to establish, and to keep, a good relation with people that listen to music. The fact that somebody can go and create content or make music, it's beautiful, it's a gift. But at the same time, if it becomes harder to monetize what you do, you don't complain and say, but the past, it was better than the present. You find new ways. In the end, if people likes what you do, it doesn't matter if, you can complain that maybe you don't want them to go and spend 2 hours every day trying to get people to stream your songs on Spotify, well, or on iTunes or any other platform, well, you know exactly how much you're gonna make, which is not gonna be like selling a CD. Then maybe don't focus on that. Focus on build a relationship with your fans. And again, this is something that is happening right now. I've seen like even John Scofield, people that they are, from a niche of like specific type of jazz or singers, pop singers, they just go live, like rappers and stuff. They just go on Instagram and they do like a 1 hour live streaming. And in the live streaming, they're not just talking to people. They say, okay, I'm gonna do a song for you. It's like you're doing a song in your fans, living room, basically. And by doing so, people are going to be like, okay, so this guy doesn't just want me to push his songs to me. They don't want to say, listen, listen, listen. It's actually interested, what's my feedback? What can I bring? And in that way, I mean, there's so much music being made every single day. In the past, it used to be that there was a limitation, because if you wanted to be heard, you needed to be on the radio, you needed to be on TV, you needed to have a CD, and it wasn't cheap. So the money was the filter in the end. It wasn't the quality, because there were a lot of music, a lot of great music that we rediscovered now, with like the vinyl record revival and stuff like that. That we were like, oh, really? This record was made in the 80s? Because we think about the 80s was just like, it's cheesy pop and stuff like that.
mm,
Actually, were people doing completely different genres. And we can do that now, because if I go on YouTube or if I go on different platforms, I can have access to more music than I could get it like in 10 years ago or 20 years
mm.
ago.
Yeah.
But because of that, because it's more accessible, obviously you can't see, or you can't say, hey, I'm gonna make like 1 million selling downloads, I'm gonna make 1 million like making streams. It's not that time. We're living in a different time. It doesn't mean that you need to stop making music. It doesn't mean that this is an excuse to complain. So the festivals eventually, just to close, stay in the topic, the festivals are definitely one of those experiences that rely probably on something that will never die, which is the live performance, right? I mean, everybody with, I think when the coronavirus, started, the whole pandemic and everything, and when people in the music industry read the news and seeing like big companies like Live Nations saying like, with this year, nothing is going to happen. Like, there's not going to be, tours or anything like that. A lot of musicians, they were like, oh my God, like the only thing which was left, which is live performances, now we need to pause that too, put it on hold.
Mm,
What we're going to do. And, in the end, I mean, yeah, of course, the live performance is going to be always the best, always the top, the most human, um, the most organic way of playing to people. But it doesn't mean that you have lost touch with the community, with your fans, or with making music. Because in the
mm,
end, like it's always up to figuring out what to do and not get stuck. Like we went through phases. So the
mhm,
virtual festival to me is like when tape cassettes came in after vinyl records, and then CDs came in, and then there was iTunes, and then Napster, and then after Napster there was Spotify, and after Spotify there were torrents. And after torrents is YouTube now. Like, people use YouTube to listen to music and to find new music, which is a video channel. And right now it's in the present times is a mix of all this. So it's about creativity, and
Yeah.
so it's about being creative, and in my opinion, like, it's not even really difficult to find a solution because people have the solution. Music lovers have the solution. They people that love music, they're always listening to music, they're always looking for music. And people that are random listeners, that they more mainstream, obviously they won't have the same dedication of people that are obsessed with music or love music a lot. Nobody can pretend that, because people are different. But if you stay consistent, and I think the best thing that I want to close with just a suggestion. The best thing that a musician can do right now, in my opinion, which is what me and Dario are inevitably doing anyway, is to record, like, to produce music, put it out, like, or plan a release like in a month. Right now, you can focus even more on crafting or making your vision real. And the more your recorded version of music sounds better, the more it sounds coherent with what you want, the more it will sound great when you're going to be bringing that live when this is going to be over. Doesn't matter if it's going to be over, summer, this year, next year. It doesn't matter. That all this time that we have until the live performances will come back, who knows in what form. For sure, what we have is that if you're making music, then make music, and you have even more time now to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. And I was speaking with Shabzy O'Brien there from State Lights, and we talked about this as well. There's someone still trying to drill into my house here, so hopefully you'll be able to hear me. You guys can. I've muted my mic at times, but I don't know what is going on outside. But yeah, it was that music doesn't need to have that ultimate end. That the problem with today's kind of culture is that we're looking for that instant gratification, and that's why a lot of people are creating. Not that they're creating it. It's just their frame of mind is incorrect, because we've been sort of taught to sort of think that we need to get something back by pushing something out. aka art or music or our own expression, right? So the true key is, and the true understanding, and me and Shabzy, and you're touching on it too, is that that we should create without ultimately looking for anything in return, but just create, even for ourselves, for our own sanity, for our own benefit, especially during these times. Like you're suggesting, musicians, the best thing they can do is create. You're right on, man. That's it. That's the best thing they can do right now. And by default, by sharing that music, they're going to affect somebody. It doesn't need to be, they don't need to, by definition, the only reason I'm creating music because I want to affect. No, it's kind of like the default reaction of what happens. And if you're not expecting to do that, sometimes the most beautiful thing is you can get surprised by certain reactions, or the amount of reactions that your music makes, right? It's got no ultimate goal, which is beautiful. And thank you for touching on that, and going into depth with sort of your vision of music and things like that. It's an absolute delight to talk to you both. Two absolutely amazing, talented, fantastic musicians and great people. I really hope to be able to chat and maybe work on some projects, Julio. I'm sure you've got way better people out there than me, well more capable. But I bring the gusto, man. I bring the gusto. But absolute pleasure. Listen, guys, I'd love to chat more. But Dario, would you like to close up on a song? What do you think? Or is there anything else you'd like to add, Dario, actually, as well?
Why not? Why not? Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah,
I can hear you well. I'd love you to finish on a song.
Yeah, let's finish with the song. Yeah, still, since the instrument I have, I keep the lo-fi thing. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, please. Look, it's absolutely
cool.
Up to you, man.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play the backing track from WhatsApp in the chat group, where he sent me the original version of what he did, and I'm gonna play that one and see if it works. This is called Ramen or Ramen Girl. Ramen? How do you say ramen or ramen? Depends on the. It's the that
Is it the soup? Ramen.
Yeah, the soup. Ramen. So
Ramen.
it's
Ramen,
Yeah,
it's-
I'm gonna take you out for some ramen, guys, after this. Okay, after this quarantine.
ramen girl.
There you go. Great. You got the
Let's
floor,
try.
Dario.
All right.
It's great.
Yeah, that's just it's so much fun. Oh, guys, I'm looking
Was- wa-
forward.
All
Huh?
right.
It's just it's just so groovy. It's so groovy, and it's interesting. I never like appreciated lo-fi. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that I would think about trying to get into or anything like that. But hearing it live and watching you play it, and it's just really Dario knows me. I like to really groove into music, and we've had our nights out where we're dancing and all that stuff. But it is quite for a chill genre. It's you still want to kind of move a bit, right?
It's because I've been a little bit more. I wasn't really quiet playing it. I could do like just just a few notes very quiet. Yeah, well, but anyway,
That was like your subgenre of lo-fi, right? Kind of funky.
something different.
Something
Yeah.
Great, guys. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you both. Is there anything else you'd like to close off the show with? Julio, I'll start with you. Is there anything you'd like to finish up with?
Well, I mean, obviously, like for lo-fi jazz, you can go anywhere. You can go on Instagram or I don't know if we have a Facebook page, but if you go on Instagram, if you go on SoundCloud, obviously on Spotify, and you just type lo-fi jazz, either as a one word or as two words. We're the only one. So that's, or you can go lofijazz.com. Obviously, we have the .com too. So that's pretty easy to find. If you go on YouTube and you type lo-fi jazz, obviously there's going to be all the playlist of lo-fi jazz, music or lo-fi music. But in general, if you use the word, the hashtag, lo-fi jazz,
Hmm.
pretty much wherever you go, you're going to find us.
And there's a
In,
mixtape as well, which
yeah,
is really cool. It's like 45 minutes or something
Hmm.
with a lot of tracks, one after the other. And we made it on purpose, one or two mixtapes. I loved it. I've been listening to it like for myself, like not. I was forgetting that we made it. It was really cool. That's
And where can people find that, Dario?
well, that's it's still on Spotify and all the platforms, but now more music is coming back because for a while there was some changing due some I don't know some technical changes about on platforms.
Hmm.
So now you might find less music than before, and then in a while there's gonna be much more.
Okay, so
So
like some stuff.
the old stuff are coming back,
Hmm.
plus new stuff. There we are. That's the only thing right now, but it's
Okay.
gonna be just for a while.
Awesome, awesome. So lo-fi jazz. We have Julio and we have Dario. Julio, so your last name is D'Agostino.
correct. Yes.
D'Agostino.
Yeah.
So Julio D'Agostino and Dario Rodighiero, two fierce Italian musicians. Absolutely love it. Dario as well. Just before, because you have something as well that's you might want to plug. Do you want to just plug it regarding the Berkeley and your GoFundMe campaign, which looks to be going
Oh right,
absolutely
yeah, that's because it's just
spectacular.
it's something that you know uh, I'm making the fundraiser because it's really, 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 really expensive. Of course, it's one of the best schools, and of course, it is expensive. So I'm trying everything, getting scholarships, and plus this fundraisers, and that is working very well. I can put the link. Yeah,
Please do.
it's that's really cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Actually,
so Dario's, for all you viewers that might not know, Dario got an offer for Berkeley in the States, which is absolutely, I'm super duper proud of you. And I remember that process of you preparing for the audition, and I didn't see you for like for a few months, and it was kind of almost coming up to the quarantine almost, right? Or but then you got accepted, which is amazing. And yeah, of course, those colleges aren't cheap. So Dario is running a GoFundMe page, which we will post, and I'll share this anyway. I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and I'm going to attach all of your links, even the lo-fi jazz. So I'd love all that if you can
I
send
put
me
it
that.
here in the comment.
Put it in the chat as well.
So
And
there you go. There you go.
let's send Dario to Berkeley. But I mean, I'm gonna miss him, Julio. We're gonna miss him, man, aren't we?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just said it's gonna be like a great experience for him. I was at Berkeley myself, like in a long time ago, in
Okay.
early 2000, and yeah, I spent there a long time, 2 years in Boston, 2 great years, and it's an experience that I mean, it was unique in the end. It's not just the school, but it's the people that you're gonna meet there. The teachers are not just teachers; they're practicing musicians, and they're like you can experience. I think for me it was the first time, but I experienced music as a lifestyle, not just as a job or as something that you do, but it's something that is really part of your life. And people there, like the only thing, I mean, the campus at least. Also in Boston, is there's a lot of jazz mostly, and a lot of like music for musicians. So if you're a musician and you want to find yourself, being surrounded by people who speak like music language or stuff like that, that's a great place. And gets addictive. Obviously, a lot of people, but they were there. They either ended up in teaching music or being session players and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great experience for Daria because he's going to be able to experience that.
Amazing, amazing, Dario. I wish you the best of luck with the GoFundMe and the Lo-Fi Jazz Festival, guys. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I'm going to stay in touch, obviously, anyway, with yous. And now, Julio, we got to know each other a little bit. Well, I got to know you. You don't really know me too well, but I could probably just fill that in about 5 minutes. It's not going to take too long. But it's an absolute pleasure, guys. Have a great weekend. It's actually Saturday, by the way, just in case anybody forgot. I know it's hard to tell the days apart. And I'm speaking with Julyo D'Agostino and Dario Rodighiero, my final guests this evening on Mars Radio. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
you.
See you later, guys. Take it easy.
See you guys. Bye.
Wow, what an amazing conversation with Julio and Dario there. What a lovely bunch of guys, and just an absolute superb talent. They're both absolutely amazing musicians, as I'm sure you've heard there in their performances. So they've been promoting, the Lo-Fi Jazz Festival, which will be sometime in July, and I'll be sharing the links and things like that coming along when I release this video on YouTube. Dario's also running a GoFundMe page where we're trying to get him off to Berkeley, which I think is an absolutely amazing idea. I think it would be amazing to send him there. He's an amazingly talented musician, and he really, really deserves it. So, guys, thanks so much for staying tuned with me throughout this whole day. Some of yous might be here the full. How long are we here together? 4.5 hours. Is it 5:30? How long's it been? Is it 4? It's 4.5 hours we've been doing this. So thanks so much for all you for sticking around, and thanks to those